to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Lawson, and this show is all about helping you not just reach retirement, but truly thrive in it. You've put in the work, now let's make sure you can enjoy every moment to the fullest. Today's episode is really an extension of a previous episode. So we've talked in the past about retirement income planning, and really the essence of that being our ability to maintain, our current standard of living. And once we are able to, through planning, determine whether or not we're able to kind of maintain that standard of living we've grown accustomed to, then so much of the planning process beyond that point becomes all about effectively managing retirement risk. And so over the course of the next couple of episodes, we're going to talk about these various retirement risks and ways to go about being proactive in planning for them. One of the big ones, and one of the reasons I'm kind of talking about this one first, is the sequence of returns risk. So it's typically not as well known as market volatility or taxes or inflation, terms that a lot of people have been exposed to over time. The sequence of returns risk is a retirement risk that, while not as well known, is just as prevalent. And so let's define that risk, and then let's talk about ways in which people can go about proactively planning for it. So what is the sequence of returns risk? It's the impact that potential negative returns can have on a retirement portfolio early in retirement. So what does that mean? We retire, we've got kind of our retirement portfolio and call it our 401k or an IRA, and we're going to start drawing down on that bucket of money to fund our retirement. But no sooner than we retire, the market goes through a downturn. So the market just starts declining for a period of time, just like the market does. The only difference is this time the market's declining and we're taking money out of our portfolio on top of that. That can be a double whammy and really disastrous for the longevity of our retirement dollars. So the sequence of returns risk is something that, because we don't know how the market's going to perform those early years of retirement, something that we can try and plan for and really kind of put a preventative framework in place prior to retirement to help combat it. So what is a potential solution for this? It is the bucket strategy. And you'll hear me refer to the bucket strategy probably in multiple episodes, but the bucket strategy is really setting up different retirement buckets of money that are designed to be accessed at different time periods in retirement. So using our previous example, let's say we've retired, we've got our 401k, rather than having all of our retirement dollars in this one account, the bucket strategy suggests carving off monies from this primary retirement account and funding 2 to 3 separate accounts for retirement. And what that looks like is bucket one, which is designed to be accessed first in retirement. So bucket one, typically, we fund 3 years worth of our projected retirement spending in this retirement bucket. And this is what we're going to spend down first in retirement. This account, because we are going to spend it down first, is really designed to be invested very conservatively. We don't want this account fluctuating with the market. We want it to be kind of protected as best as possible, and this be kind of the source of our income early on in retirement. So that's bucket one. And again, generally roughly 3 years worth of our retirement spending is a good number for this bucket. And the way in which I've derived that 3-year number is, if you look back over time at the market, it goes up and down, obviously up and down. So when you look back at the S&P 500 going back to the early 1900s, when it goes from peak to trough back to peak, that can take on average close to 3 years, give or take. Sometimes it's much shorter, sometimes it's a little bit longer, but that's a good average. So if we've got 3 years worth of our projected retirement spending dedicated to a bucket that is not going to be fluctuating a lot, or if at all, with the market, then we're kind of buying time, so to speak, for the market to kind of go through its traditional cycle without having to pull monies out on top of a potential downturn in the market. So, but that's bucket one. The bucket strategy typically has 2 to 3 buckets. So if we're going with a 3-bucket approach, bucket 2 is typically designed to fund the next 3 to 4 years worth of retirement spending. That's going to be certainly invested a little more for growth than bucket 1, but not nearly as growth oriented as bucket 3. So this bucket is kind of your moderate portfolio. You know, you may have a mixture of different stocks and bonds. You may have different income vehicles. The actual investment itself can vary from person to person, but the vehicle or the account rather is designed to be kind of moderate in terms of its risk tolerance and designed to grow, albeit with mindfulness of downside protection. So that's bucket 2. If you go the 3-bucket approach, bucket 3 is everything else. So bucket 1, you've got your first 3 years of projected retirement spending. Bucket 2, you've got the next 3 to 4. Bucket 3, you're putting everything else in this bucket and really allowing this account to grow over time. So the hope for this account is for it not only to kind of complete this framework that we've put in place to protect against the sequence of returns risk, but we also want this account to kind of serve as our inflation buffer and really significantly outpace inflation and help your retirement portfolio keep up with the rising cost of living. So that's the 3-bucket approach. Some folks may opt for a 2-bucket approach. And if that's the case, all we're doing is really changing how much money is in each of these buckets and changing the allocation. So with a 2-bucket approach, bucket 1, rather than having 3 years of retirement spending, maybe we've got, closer to 5 or 7 years of retirement spending. And rather than being as protected as we may have been in bucket 1 in the previous example, we've got more of a kind of a moderate conservative type risk tolerance tied to this portfolio. And then bucket 2 is everything else. So regardless if it's a 2-bucket or 3-bucket approach, we've still got sufficient monies carved out to fund the first several years of retirement in an account that's not designed to fluctuate wildly with the market. And we've also got monies in an account that's really designed to grow and help replace those monies that we're spending early on in retirement. I hope you found that very helpful. We'll include a link in the show notes showing a real-life example of the sequence of returns risk and the positive and negative impact it's had on hypothetical investors. And as always, if you've got questions, feel welcome to reach out to me or my team offline, and we'll look forward to continued retirement risk episodes in the weeks ahead. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I hope you're walking away with new ideas and a fresh perspective on how to make the most of your retirement journey. And remember, retirement isn't the end. It's your time to live with purpose. Until next time, I'm Trevor Lawson. Here's to a fulfilling and thriving retirement.